Yeah. The Big Young Podcast. Let's go. Real stories, real people, that's the way. From bottom to the top, watch us elevate. Every struggle made us stronger, now we celebrate. Diamonds fall from pressure, man, we never break. Open mind, open ears, that's the recipe. Different paths, same hustle, that's the legacy. Stack wisdom like I'm stacking all these Benjamins. Every setback just a setup for the win. Let's go. The Big Young Podcast.
Alrighty. That's enough of that. That's enough of that intro song. It does get me hyped though. Every time I put it on, I'm like, I like it. Shout out AI for their song making ability, and I'm gonna cough. Oh, here we are, 2026 team. We are back in the studio on a Friday night, having a cup of tea, and it is lit. First pod for, I think it's the first pod for 2026. I'll double check. Anyway, I've been trying to G up guests. I just haven't had time. I've been doing other things. So priorities, too many things going on. And I sort of go through stages of like, I'll tee up a bunch of guests to come on and get them going and bang them out. And then I sort of get distracted doing other things. And yeah, it's an ebb and a flow, but I'll get some guests on soon. I just sort of, got to get the year started and sort some things out first. But here I am solo with a few things to talk about. And I just realized I don't have my book. But anyway, it's, the start of February. And I just want to say, hopefully everyone's year is kicking off well. New year, new me, new resolutions. Again, like I've said 100 times, I'm not a New Year's resolution person. But if you are, I hope you're still sticking to whatever you were trying to do. I'll just grab my book. And I've got a couple of topics I've been thinking on that I want to talk about tonight. But yeah, it's already February, man. Like that first month of the year just goes by so quick. It's like the year starts and then you're like, oh, we're into February already. And then next minute it's like, okay, March is here. And time flies. And I hit a big milestone just recently, which is a big one for, me and the wife and our little family. And that was Forrest started school. So I now have both kids at school. And if you follow me on social media, you would have seen that I posted about it and sort of the milestone that it was in that we made the goal, I think before we even had Aurora, before we even had kids. It was like 2 years before we even decided to have kids. And we said, look, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it our way. And one of our goals was to always have one parent at home, like one full-time parent. And yeah, that was sort of the realization moment of that milestone or achievement was Forrest starting school a few days ago. And it's just one of those things that, 8.5 years of sort of making it happen. It's a big milestone and it felt really good to achieve it. And I've spent the last 3 years being sort of the full-time parent. And we switched when Nikki went back to work. I think 3 years ago, three and a bit years ago. And yeah, she did it for five or 6 years. She was a full-time mum. So it's sort of it's a big milestone for us. And we're sort of into that next chapter of sort of parenthood and life with 2 school-aged children, and frees up a lot of time, for me to do other things. So not really sure. Still sort of in the planning stage, but we'll see what pans out. But anyway, that's enough about me. I want to get on to a few things I've been thinking on recently, and you know how it goes with my little black book. I just write down some things that I've been thinking about and sort of talk about them. Sort of empty my brain onto the tape, but that's pretty old school, onto the digital recorder. So the first thing I've got written down here, and this is kind of a motivational one. I've literally written reps equals value equals reward equals fulfillment. And what I'm trying to say by that is I talk about reps, you've got to be willing to do the reps to achieve something, no matter what it is. It doesn't matter what you're pursuing. I can't even name anything, but I mean, I'll use, like I have before, I'll use my photography sort of career or journey as a bit of an example. And on the reps side of things, I always knew that if I put in the reps and got good enough, people would come to me to hire me, as a photographer for my skills and the way I do things. And that was me kind of knowing that. And okay, I got to put in the reps. I'm going to have to put in 5 years of reps, shooting. And however that applies to you or anybody else, that could be whatever it is relative to what you're trying to achieve. Putting in those reps, willing to do something for nothing for long enough to grow the skill set. To then what rolls into the next thing, value. And that's, like the more reps you put in, the more value you add and create for yourself. So basically, the more valuable you become. And that, I guess with the example I was using with the photography sense is the more reps I put in, the more my career grew, the bigger the clients got, the more I charged for the value that I brought, rather than like just looking at everything like an hourly rate, like a job, which is it's kind of a mindset that a lot of people are stuck in. And I went down that road too. I left school and got a job when I was 15, and I sort of found my way out of that. But especially here in New Zealand, a lot of people get stuck in that sort of like hourly rate mindset, which I've talked on before, where they've always had a job working for other people, and they're always they're always basing their value off what they get paid per hour, which is a very limiting way to think. But it's when it comes to money, but it seems to be very common. It's a lot more, it's I guess most of society kind of operates that way, and like I've talked about before, like being a good little slave, follow the system, follow society, do what you're supposed to do, get a job, buy a box of sticks, that's a house if you're not weird. And they never get a chance to actually realize their true value. So by putting in those repetitions, you create the value for yourself, as in like the value you add to whatever it is you're trying to do. Your value increases, just like my price for shooting has increased, tenfold over the years, to the point where I charge the amount that I charge because I know it's the value that I add to my clients. It's not based off like, well, I charge this much an hour and I'm there for this long. That's all goes out the window. I charge for the value that I add. So by doing the reps, not only am I adding, can't even talk, not only am I adding value to myself and what my time or my skill is worth, I'm adding value to other people. So every rep that I do, and again, this applies to anything you're trying to do, anything at all. And the more you do something, the more people either, if they utilize your service, so, you're adding value to them, or if you're doing something that could like help people, that's value that you're providing other people as well. So it's sort of it's a two-way street. You're increasing your value, but you're adding value to the world as well and to other people, whether you're inspiring them, whether you're helping them, whether they hire you to, in my case, shoot something for their business, which then brings in more customers to their business. So it helps them grow. So the value thing is kind of, I guess it's a two-way street. It's you and external other people, where you're adding the value. So then after you've provided value, becomes reward, and a lot of things, depending on what you're doing, you have to be willing to put in those reps over a long period of time before you even get any reward. And that's it's a thing where a lot of people jump into business, or they jump into, like a creative outlet, and I just use that reference because it's what I see in the photo and video game. A lot of, I guess, young people jump into it and think, well, I just buy that flash camera and then I get the reward. People hire me to shoot the stuff, but they haven't done the reps. They haven't then built the value to even be able to charge for their work. It applies to everything. So the rewards do come, but you have to be willing to put in the reps and build the value of whatever it is you're doing, whether it's a business that might struggle by for a few years, and then all of a sudden you sort of hit your flow and you're away, and it blows up, and it, not technically, but it grows and you start to get the reward. You know what I'm saying? It's the reward comes eventually, but if you don't put in the reps and build the value long enough, you'll quit before the reward comes. And then after, obviously, I got reward equals fulfillment. And that's another aspect that I wanted to talk about, because if you're willing to do the reps, you're willing to add or build the value, you get the reward, and then you get this cool ass thing called fulfillment. And I guess I've noticed a lot of people don't have a lot of fulfillment. Fulfillment sounds weird now. Fulfillment. Fulfillment, whatever, you know what I'm saying. A lot of people don't have that in their life. Like I said, whether they have a job that they hate, or they don't have a lot of hobbies outside of working. They don't have that stimulation, that fulfillment from something that they get it from. It could be like I said, it could be a hobby, it could be your career, it could be anything. But that feeling is so important for us humans, I feel, because it's like the opposite is just hollowness. You just feel like you're just droning through life. You're not feeling fulfilled in anything you do. You're not getting that sense of joy from something, and that spark for life, that energy, which is something else I want to talk about. But that sort of process for me is an important one if you want to build anything and achieve anything in this life. Like you don't get the last stage, the fulfillment stage, without the reps or without building the value. And I mean, the reward could come after fulfillment. It just depends what your goals are. And like things like achieving the goal of 2 kids starting school and having always had a parent at home. Like I felt fulfilled achieving that. And looking back and being like, man, that's 8.5 years of parenting that we've put into this, and it's finally realizing this goal that you set so long ago. It was the same with my photography stuff. It was like I set a goal 10 years ago, and I got to the point where I got to look back and be like, I've achieved what I set out to achieve 10 years ago, whenever I achieved it. But that was fulfillment. That was me like being stoked on what I had achieved, and I don't know, it's hard to explain fulfillment. It's a weird word to say, as you can hear. It's so important, man. It's so important for your soul and for like who you are as a person to have that in your life, whether it's something to do with like career, like I said, or like even just a hobby that fulfills you, or a good partner, or your kids, or what. It's a million things, but it's a feeling that I feel like we need as humans. We need to achieve things to feel that fulfillment. Doesn't matter how many times I say that word. Feels weird. It sounds weird. Something else I wanted to have a quick chat about after this drink a cup of tea. I feel like the older you get, the more you appreciate a cup of tea. What is it about that? Like some days I have a cup of tea And I just go, man, that is good. Like, that's just so good. I swear when I was younger, I never could give a shit about a cup of tea. The older I get now, I'm like, cup of tea really fulfills me, you know? Like, it's just, yeah, it's just good. Drink that soon before it gets cold. The other thing I've got written down here is easy times, soft people. And what I'm meaning by this is another, like, I'm very observant. You know, I go through life observing a lot of society and people and humans and how people operate and carry themselves. And one thing I've noticed lately, and this is, obviously I've written this as reference to this, is, you know, like, a lot of people have life so easy, especially in this country. You know, like, New Zealand's an amazing country. Like I've said before, it's, yes, there's people that do it tough, but at the end of the day, we have, you know, like, people, we have like governments that literally will just give you money if you can't survive. Like, I don't think people realize how important that is, like, how special that is. And, you know, it's not like that in the majority of the world. So, easy times, soft people. You guys know the old saying, hard men create easy times create soft men, da 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 da. So, easy times, soft people. What I'm getting at is, like, just the whinging is insane. And, like, especially here where I live, but, like, people don't have real problems in their life. And I think that's a big issue. And that's why there's so much whinging about the most silly shit you could ever imagine. It's insane. And I think at the end of the day, people just love to have something to whinge about. Like, you know, as you know, like, I live with gratitude. I'm just stoked. I'm grateful for everything. And I just have a froth for life for that reason. But man, some people are the complete opposite. And I just see some of the shit that people whinge about here, especially, and all around the world. But I'm like, man, people in other countries have real problems, you know, like, legit fucking, they live in violent environments and, like, horrible places. I picked up a hitchhiker girl the other day driving to town, and she was from Israel. I think it was Israel. Yeah. And she was telling me how, you know, as I always do, I said, oh, what are your thoughts on New Zealand? You know, how do you find the people and whatnot? And she's like, oh, everyone's so friendly. She's like, I haven't felt not a single sketchy situation, you know, like, and obviously in her broken accent. And she's like, everyone's so welcoming and helpful and friendly. And that's what you want to hear. Because for me as a Kiwi, I want to be a good representative of my country, you know, like, and I live in a tourist town, so I do this with all the tourists, you know, when I get to talk to them, like, what's the consensus, you know, is it people nice, you know, and everyone's like, yeah. And that's the thing that a lot of, I guess, people here don't realize is, like she said, she's been hitchhiking around New Zealand. She's traveled all around the country within I think a month or two. And she's hitchhiked the whole way. And she said, in my country, you would never do this. She's like, you would never hitchhike around a country. It is not safe. Like, you can't do that. And she was mind blown by it, because when she said when she was going to come here, some people she knew said, oh, just hitchhike. She was like, what? Like, blown away by it. And it's just an example that, like, you know, in her country, they have legit issues. I mean, Israel's at war? Yeah. So, I don't know, I get a few countries mixed up, but, you know, there's legit problems there. There's, like, actual shit, like life's sketchy. And people here or wherever, I feel like, some people just have it too good, you know. Some of the shit they whinge about, I'm just like, man, go out and live your fucking life. Like, stop whinging about everything. It doesn't do anything good for you. A lot of it's like negativity. So it's, you know, it comes back into you. It's like, negativity is like a virus, you know. It's horrible and it spreads like crazy. But every day, especially on social media and, like, different platforms, and I just see the whinging and I'm like, fuck. Go if I can find a hobby or do something, or, you know, like, I don't know. It's a hard one for me to talk about, but it's a perfect example that life is obviously pretty bloody easy, because the shit that people are willing to whinge about is insane. Like, it baffles me that someone would raise up this great concern of theirs, which is just the dumbest shit ever. I'm just like, man, that sort of shit baffles me. Like, human psychology and human nature to me is super interesting, but at the same time, I lose faith in humanity, you know, in certain situations that I see. I'm just like, really? Like, what is your life? Like, no offense, like, to whoever, but yeah, I don't know. I don't be one of those people, you know, like, get out there and live your life. Like, yes, if you've got legit problems in your life, you know, then yeah, kind of gives you some leeway to have a whinge, but I just don't see why people waste energy on shit. Like, waste energy on just the dumbest shit, you know, like, concentrate on what you're up to, what you're trying to achieve and where you're going in life. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing and then whinge about it because, oh, it doesn't fit your bloody view on everything or whatever, you know, it doesn't affect your life at all. But you spend all this energy and a lot of negative energy on just whinging about shit for the sake of it. It's such a vicious cycle that I can't get my head around. So that's just one of my bafflings for the week, for the start of this year. Is obviously easy times have created soft people and they love to whinge about shit. Do people just not have adversity? You know, like, do people go through life just never getting in hard situations, you know, or like pushing themselves? Is that where the whinge can't get my head around it. Don't know. It's just one of my observations that I just can't. Just baffles me that humans are willing to spend energy on some of the things that they're willing to spend energy on, you know. And that's where, like, the bigger picture thinking that I always preach comes in. If you're having a whinge or making a big deal out of, like, the most mundane, silly shit, you know, it's like, just go outside at nighttime and look up at the universe and feel tiny and realize that you're just this little pink monkey. Well, depending on what your skin color is, but you're this little hairless monkey that's just on this flying, spinning bloody ball of lava with a crust on the outside, flying through an infinite universe. That bigger picture thinking, man, it's yeah, it makes you be not those people. It makes you live life sort of, I guess, with gratitude, because it's always amazing how caught up people can get in just the most nonsensical bullshit within their lives. And me seeing that from my perspective, I'm just like, man, why? Like, don't do it to yourself. Instead, go out there and get some perspective and the bigger picture on life, because it's pretty bloody sweet. All right, last drink of cup of tea. It's not very warm, and you guys know what cold tea tastes like. It is not ideal. All right, last little topic here. I've got spirit/energy. You can probably guess what I'm going to talk about here, and that's, again, another observational type scenario where humans, humans are all created uniquely and individually. There is like a hive mind in a sense, I guess, in society where people do, like I talked about earlier, bounce stuff off each other, whether it's in like negativity or positivity or whatever. But one thing you can't deny is that a certain percentage of humans just have more spirit or energy like in them. And again, it's just another observation that I make in everyday life, out in the world, out in society. How like polar opposite humans can be. You have people that, like I talked about, carry that negative energy or that negative like spirit in them. They're very spiteful people, and they sort of walk around like this and look at everybody else like they're their enemy, which, for me is baffling, because then I come along, I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm all happy and shit. And they're just like, ooh, it's like kryptonite to them, And I love that shit. I love it. I love stirring the pot. I was talking to I was going to say old lady, mature woman at the hardware store the other day, and she was very much of that. And during the conversation, I could see it switch. I switched her, I flipped her from. I mean, it doesn't help that a lot of older generations look at someone who's like heavily tattooed up and stuff, and sort of, who's dodgy bugger. But just within one conversation, I could flip her energy from very negative and snarly to happy and bubbly and smiling, and I just love that shit. I love it. I love, kill them with kindness type vibe is what I've always relied on. But yeah, it's just another part of like human psychology that trips me out. And, I'm obviously trying to live life pretty consciously. And another part that baffles me is like how reactionary humans are. And again, I've spoken on some of the stuff before, but it's hard to imagine going through life being that like reactionary to everything, like being so hardwired in your way of being that you don't even have like a conscious thought in every situation that you're in to, I guess, like switch it and be positive or be like, no, hang on, I'm not going to react to whatever's happening in my usual negative way. I'm actually going to have a conscious thought and be like, I don't need to be a prick right now. Like, I can actually just be a good person. And that's the energy spirit thing that I'm talking about, is like how polar opposite it can be. Like, I know some super rad humans, and they possess an energy in them that uplifts others, and I tried to do that. I tried to, whether it's just a conversation or, whatever, through whatever channel, however you do it, telepathy, I don't bloody know, but I guess I just don't understand why people go the other route and spend their life in like a negative shell within themselves, and be that negative Nancy. It baffles me, like how people aren't just stoked on it. And that's where like that spirit thing comes in, because I guess I call it spirit, soul. I don't really know what it is, but you know what I'm saying. When you meet somebody or you talk to somebody, and you leave a conversation like uplifted, like, wow, man, like I'm pumped, like I'm energized, like the energy was amazing, their spirit was whatever. And then you have the complete opposite, where you talk to someone and it just sort of sucks the life right out of you, and you go, fucking, then you find yourself like it's rubbed off on you, and you're like all like down and doubtful and questioning things. And that part of humanity really trips me out, is how we're all sort of given the same time in a day, the same 24 hours. And a lot of humans choose to go, I say humans like I'm not one of them, like the human race. I'm an alien and I'm watching the human race. I guess I'm an alien in the sense that I do think a bit differently, but yeah, that part of it just trips me out. We all get the same time, yet there's such a huge percentage of the population that choose to think in that sort of negative, that sort of vibe, with, and not carrying that energy or that spirit, within them, or that negative energy or spirit, which is contagious in the bad way. And again, that's what I'm saying. Like, I know a lot of cool people that have really cool energy, and it's you talk to them or you run into certain people, and it's like we all know people like that, and it just trips me out how you can be that way or you can be the other way, the negative, bad way. So one thing to sort of create, yourself, if you're young and you're not already hardwired into your ways, is to really be conscious about, I guess, your energy. Because again, I've preached on it before and talked about it, and preached on it like I'm a bloody pastor at a church, Pastafarian. Talked about it before, where like just by wiring this brain or this mindset up here in the correct way, in the right way, it can take you to some bloody cool places in life, man. Like, like just thinking in a good, positive manner, instead of we were talking to the kids about it the other day, like the below the line thinking, which is like blame, excuse, deny, and then above the line, which is like accountability, ownership, and whatever else, like there's so many of these little tricks in your mindset that you can take on, and it can actually change who you are. But you have to, again, going back to what we were saying earlier, you have to be willing to put in the reps and actually practice it in everyday life and have those conscious thoughts when you do have those interactions and stuff, like instead of someone says something to you which goes against your views and you go, oh, and you react, take a split second to think and be like, is it necessary to react? It's another thing I've always spoke about is like being personable, like if you can mold your personality or your views to fit with all walks of life and all different types of people, the opportunities that can open up are massive, like you can't be so hardwired in your views of everything and your like inner energy, because it does create that reactionary person who goes around and reacts to everything, and a lot of the time the reactions are negative, and it's just that negativity just flows. It's just as contagious as positive energy, but in a bad way. So yeah, with your spirit and your energy, I guess like gratitude is huge. Be grateful for everyone and everything, and just life in general, because it could be over tomorrow. Who knows? But if you're not grateful and you're not frothing on it and you're not stoked on like life, your energy and your spirit is going to portray that. Like everybody has down days. And some of those people that are really up all the time and stoked and frothing and just loving life have bigger down days, or down weeks. And that's kind of me. I go through, like at the start of the year, probably a few weeks back, I went through a bit of a, interestingly, so did a few other people that I know around the same period. Quite bizarre, whether it was like a moon phase or what. But, you get down weeks. You get a bigger down because you're always up. So it's like it's an uneven thing. You're mostly up, but then when you do go down, you get a bit down in the dumps, But I guess having the mental fortitude and the positive energy ingrained in you, no matter what, allows you to pull yourself out of those darker down days and weeks, and back into yourself. So it's like the positive energy thing is so much who you are as anything. Like, yes, it's a conscious way of being and thinking and carrying yourself. You really have to work on it, to not be, like I said, reactionary, because humans are instinctual creatures. Like you still get those thoughts of, reacting to something or saying something you shouldn't, or being that, like negative person, but it's about controlling it and being able to stop yourself from saying those things or doing those things, and actually processing it and being like, no, that's not who I am anymore, or whatever. So your spirit and your energy is massive. And like I said, it is contagious. So I suppose if you are not that way, time to scrub up on some mindset things and get that way. Because it's a bloody good way to live. And like I said, the opportunities that come from it, pretty awesome. People don't remember shit people. People don't remember negative people. I mean, they might, but you generally scrub it from your mind. Like, oh, they were horrible. Don't worry about them. But the positive ones that leave an impact on others, those are the ones that people remember and gravitate towards, especially if you can help people. If you can use your energy in some way to help others, to, again, change their mindset, change their life, change their career, change anything, then they're going to, people are going to remember you, remember your name, remember your face. So at the end of the day, just don't be a dickhead. So at the end of the day, just don't be a dick. That should be a t-shirt. Just don't be a dick. Because again, super observant. I'm always observing. I'm always taking note of all the shit I see where I'm like, why are you like that person? Like, It's not necessary. It's yeah. I don't know. I guess conscious thinking is key there to not being one of those people. But yeah, random ramblings on a Friday night. We are here and it's a party. Big Friday night. Remember when you were young? Like Friday night was like, yeah, Friday. You like if you had a job, whatever, you work all week. Friday was just like it was the best feeling ever. Gonna go out, just get shit faced and regret it. Now a Friday night for me is having a cup of tea at, what is it, 9 o'clock? That's a rave, man. It's a big night. Dude, it's amazing how things change as you get older, eh? The things I appreciate now that I just never would have even thought about when I was in my late 20s. Trips me out. Like, just... But in saying that, if you are in your 20s and you're doing that, go hard, because you soon lose, what's the word? You soon lose enthusiasm for it, I suppose. I was saying to the wife earlier, I was like writing something somewhere, and I said, I'm at the age where I've got to write things down because I just forget it otherwise. And yeah, that's the joys. I'm actually, when's my birthday? Not next week, the week after. I'll be 38. 38. Jesus, I feel like I just turned 21. No, to be fair, it does feel like a lifetime ago, but still, it's like still a vivid memory, you know, over there on the Gold Coast. That was a living, Barry. That was a living. Completely different lifestyle to what I got now. But I was definitely living it up, that's for sure, in a different sort of, I guess in a different manner. But yeah, I don't know, just rambling on. What else can we talk about? Plans for the year, I suppose, all sorts, you know. Not really sure where the podcast will go. I'm just going to keep chipping away at it. Get good guests when I can. I'm not really interested in talking to people that I'm not interested in talking to. I've had quite a few people hit me up asking to come on, and I'm like, no, I'm not being a dick about it, but you know, I'm like, they're clearly just trying to, I don't know what it is. Like, I want to talk to people who genuinely want to tell their story and actually have a yarn, you know, and like get deep and sort of nut things out, because, and they've got to be people that I'm interested in, that I'm like, oh, yeah, I want to hear this story. Like, they sound awesome. Because other than that, it's just, I don't know. I'm just not, I won't be inspired by it. But I've got this camper van that we brought, and we're sort of doing it up at the moment. Doing it up, we're just like putting some better flooring in it and some lighting and making it a bit nicer than what it was. But I'm thinking I might use that for doing podcasts if I set all the gear in there, and then I can kind of, what that noise was, then I can travel to people. So if I've got someone who's keen to come on, I can sort of drive to them and do a podcast in the camper van. It's intimate, you know, it's small. It's I think it would be perfect for podcasts for that reason, because the thing about podcasting with guests that I'm sure you're probably aware of is being quite intimate like that. Like, it's actually a good thing because you stay engaged, you know. Like I said, if I'm going to talk to someone, I actually want to talk to them and get deep and sort of dig out what I can, I guess, in it, like sort of interviewing them in a sense. And I feel like environments like that, same like kind of in here, you know, it's quite small and intimate. I don't know, I just feel like there's something about that is important for a podcast to sort of stay locked in and stay, I guess, on track. So I think the camper van will be good in that sense, and that way I can just go wherever I want, or wherever people are, if they, you know, because I definitely prefer doing the in-person ones, and then I can just have it set up and just pull up, you know, mobile podcast studio, much like, what's his name? Is it Steve-O? He's got that wild, whatever it's called, Steve-O's Wild Ride or something, Wild something. Obviously his camper's a lot nicer. Mine's an old retro experience by design, because I just like that sort of stuff. But so yeah, it's not as flash, but I kind of like that concept, you know. It's still raw, but it's like, it's in there, it's intimate. So yeah, I think it'll work. I just got to do some work on it and fix it up. But yeah, again, just playing it by ear when it comes to doing these pods and the future. It's it's just a passion project. Obviously, I just enjoy doing it. I enjoy hearing people's stories. It keeps me inspired, which is the main thing. Something I've always enjoyed, and I guess in that sense, every man and his dog's got a bloody podcast these days, but a lot of people get into it for the wrong reasons. And I think for me, it's just something that I like doing. I like talking to people. I like hearing people's stories. I like hearing about, I guess, that, what they've been through, their hardships, what they're building, like everything. I like to hear people's stories. And that's another thing I was thinking about, like just having yarns to like I always say old people. I feel like it's offensive. Mature people. Just old fellas and stuff. And like the other day at the pool, kids were having a swim and I was just having a yarn to this old, again, I shouldn't say that, mature lady next to me who was, I think she was like almost 90. And she was just stoked to have someone to sit there and just talk, just yarning away. And she's telling me her life story and all these stories and where her family is and about her grandkids and she just goes, like the oldies, they just love to have a yarn. They love to have someone to just like unload on. And I happily just lend an ear and be like, oh, okay, just keep them going. So I was thinking about doing something like that, I could just get some old battlers on to tell their life story and shit. But that's the sort of shit that I like. I like to hear. It keeps me, it just gets me pumped, makes me stoked just to, I guess, hear people like spill the beans and talk about, what they've been through or where they're going or whatever. So again, yeah, full passion project. But I think the camper will, allow me to have a way to sort of travel and not have to take all the gear and set it up in someone's space and do all that. I can just roll up. So yeah, in here and you're away, turn some cameras on and you're laughing. So I am going to G up some guests and I will get that set up going soon with the camper van. So we'll have a bit of a podcast on wheels and in the future I might just do some tours, and just cruise around parts of New Zealand and just G up different people to yarn to and just keep pumping them out. So yeah, again, I just love doing it. Love hearing people's stories. I just like people, Again, back to my photography. It's like, that's the main thing, main niche I've always done. It's just like people. If it's people, I'll point a camera at it. Whether they're doing the sport or whatever they're doing, I'm just frothed on humans. The good ones, not those negative ones we're talking about. They're all the whingy ones. Those are a pain in the ass. But yeah, I better shut up and get a beer or whatever I'm doing. But hopefully your 2026 has started off good, and you've made your plans for the year and set your goals for the year. I've done a few. I've written a few down. Well, have I? I just think about writing them down. I don't know, either way, the start of the year's just been a bit of a blur, to be honest. We finally had a little bit of summer lately, but it's been pretty average. But yeah, write your goals down, see what you can achieve by the end of 2026. And just be a good human. Carry yourself in a positive manner. Be nice to other people. Remember, everybody's writing their own story, fighting their own battles, and just finding their way through life in their own way. So there's no reason to not be nice. It costs nothing to be a good human. Help others. Be grateful. And just keep on trucking. Bit of inspiration for you. But no, for real though. Next time you find yourself thinking about saying a shitty thing or being a shitty human, just reevaluate. I'm sure no one listening to this does that, but if you do, just have that moment of no, I don't need to be a dick right now. Again, I'm not saying any of you guys are dicks. I'm just saying, in case you do have these moments, like I said, it costs nothing to be a good person. Smile at others, smile and wave, have a yarn, have a laugh. Take that spirit and that energy that you have in you and let it out. Let it rub off on other people. Sounds a bit weird, but you know what I'm saying. Let it infect other people with positivity, and you never know, you might change their life. That's all it can take. A conversation. a smile. You can certainly change someone's day with a smile and a wave or a compliment. It's another thing I've actually been doing lately. Just dropping random compliments on people, like especially in like shops and stuff. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I just love it. I have no shame, obviously. Couldn't care less what anyone thinks of me. So I'll just say what my mind thinks. And like the other day, I called a bus up to go pick that camper up, and I jumped off the bus, and the fella, he was a real good bus driver, jumped off. I said, "Cheers, mate. Really appreciate that. You're doing a great job." Da-da-da. Whatever else I said, gave him some compliment. He was just like, "Oh, it's like, thanks, man." Like, shook my hand and like made his day. He was frothing in it. It's that simple. It's that easy. So yeah, go out there and crush it in 2026, and however many more of these solo ones I'll do, I don't know. But if you do want me to do more and just ramble on and whatever, then let me know. But if not, just say, no, only do guest episodes because you're an earkid. I don't really care. I'll just do whatever. But yeah, write down your goals, put in the reps, create value within yourself and for others, and you'll get a reward. And then you will feel fulfillment. Peace out, team. Thanks for listening, if you are still listening. Appreciate every single one of you, and you're all absolute legends. And you're good looking, and you smell good, and you're great at what you do. And there's big things on the horizon for you. I can feel it. So just keep getting the reps in and adding the value. Peace out, team. See ya.
The Big Young Podcast. Let's go. Real stories, real people, that's the way. From bottom to the top, watch us elevate. Every struggle made us stronger, now we celebrate. Diamonds fall from pressure, man, we never break. Open mind, open ears, that's the recipe. Different paths, same hustle.